Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Magnum Martell, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Gaming / Magnums Rants, because I have to be totally honest with you guys, I don't know where to put this one, because it could go in either one, so I'm just going to put it in both, because it's a good way that if somebody clicks on one playlist, they'll know that, you know, this is also in the other one, and they might be tempted to go check it out. But for today's episode, we're not going to dwindle too long here on the beginning. We're going to be talking a little bit about Sony Interactive Entertainment and the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and the future of Sony, because I've got to be totally honest with you guys, I don't fucking understand Sony's business strategy in the slightest. And that's what we're going to be discussing. So let's get right into it. This should come as no surprise to absolutely fucking anybody, but I am originally a PlayStation player. That's right. I grew up back in the 1990s playing on the PlayStation 1. My dad had one, and then later down the line the PlayStation 2 came out, and I ended up getting a PlayStation 1 and a PlayStation 2 in the early days of my gaming career. I can remember all the way back to when I was but a young lad, unable to even know what the hell I was doing, and just randomly walking around on the original Resident Evil on the PlayStation 1. So, needless to say, PlayStation and I, we have a very, very long history together, to tell you the truth. And while I don't so much play PlayStation as much as I used to, I did originally grow up on PlayStation. Some of my favorite games of all time have been made on and were exclusive to the PlayStation 2, such as the Jak and Daxter trilogy or the original Ratchet and Clank trilogy. So on and so forth. I could sit here all day and talk about the great games that I've played over the course of my life that were only on PlayStation. Anymore, I'm primarily an Xbox player. I get most of my games on Xbox. That's where most of the people that I play games with and my friends are at. There's not very many Xbox exclusives I actually give a shit about, to be totally honest with you, because I haven't cared about Gears of War since 3, and I have absolutely no fucking interest in Halo whatsoever. For every year as the release of a new console generation comes out, it always comes down to the big two and the big three, I guess you could say, considering PC, or always end up arguing with one another about who's the best and who's got the most stuff. Well, in recent memory, PlayStation has made a lot of great exclusives. They brought back God of War with a phenomenal new fucking fourth God of War game. They've got Days Gone. They've got Horizon Zero Dawn. They've got the Persona games, like Persona 5. Absolutely fucking amazing game, actually. I need to finish it. They've got fucking Neo, and they've got Ni no Kuni. They've got the original Last of Us, because let's be honest, Last of Us 2 was fucking garbage, etc., etc., etc. So many great fucking games. Well, if you've been watching me for any length of time, or even if you're a new subscriber, you probably saw my video from earlier this week, or maybe it was last week, I can't quite remember. Either way, I was talking about how Sony is remaking the original The Last of Us for the PlayStation 5, and how it makes absolutely no fucking sense. And I talked a little bit about my theories about why they're doing so, and that I believe Neil Druckmann wants to change up the story to make our original main guy, much beloved Joel, look like a much worse person in the end. And if you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend that you go check it out. Now, in that video, I discuss a little bit about how they've actually abandoned making a sequel to Days Gone, an open-world zombie horror game where you play as a guy with the most generic white man name I've ever seen, and the most generic backstory I've ever seen, but it was an otherwise fun and enjoyable game. They recently put it out for free on PlayStation Plus, so I've actually been able to play it without paying for it, and so far, I gotta say, I'm digging it. I like it, and I already want a sequel, but Sony has passed that up in exchange for this Last of Us remake. Well, now, earlier this week, the news came out that apparently Days Gone is going to be coming to Steam, which is, you know, great for all the people that don't have a PlayStation 4, but they do have a PC that can handle the game. Absolutely fucking phenomenal. I'm all for it. I love it. But it prompted me to question myself a little bit here and ask, what the fuck is Sony's business strategy? And that is what we're going to talk about now. Now, it's no secret that Xbox and PlayStation have a bit of a rivalry going on. Just like back in the day when it was Nintendo versus Sega, right now it's Xbox versus PlayStation, with PC a little bit in the mix, kind of just going like, yeah, we think we're better than you most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. Now, me, I am an advocate for unified gaming. I am absolutely okay with every platform being united. I'm okay with crossplay on every game being something that a player can choose to turn on or off, and I actually support it. I actually like it. I wish that it would happen more often. Now there's been talks with Microsoft and Steam about connecting in ways so that players can actually communicate with one another. Microsoft is trying to buy out Discord. And that's pretty interesting. It's pretty obvious what Microsoft's business strategy is. They care more about the software than the hardware. That is where they strive. That is where they have always strived since the beginning of their lifespan, since their business. Back when Bill Gates said, software is actually pretty important, while everybody else was worried about hardware. Look at what Xbox has done in the past year alone. They literally bought Bethesda, which means they have access and exclusivity rights to every Bethesda title. They're ramping up and buying more small studios so that they can effectively have more games in their portfolio. That's smart business if you think about it, because even if they don't make those games exclusive to the Xbox consoles, what they do is they ensure that their brand is attached to those games no matter what, which means no matter what, they will always get a share of the profits. As of right now, there's a bit of worry in the PlayStation community and among the gaming community in general that Microsoft will start making all the Bethesda games like The Elder Scrolls and Doom and so on and so forth completely exclusive to the Xbox. Now the Xbox head Phil Spencer has said that they haven't talked about that. They haven't really thought about it, but it might happen, but it's not really likely because ultimately it's more profitable to them to just let everybody have it, considering they own it anyway. About PlayStation. I'm not really sure what PlayStation's plan here is, because PlayStation has admitted that they want to focus on large blockbusters like The Last of Us, which is something that they're remaking. And in the video that I did about it, I pretty much go through the article that explains why they want to focus on large blockbusters that make tons of fucking money and are guaranteed to get good reviews. But then you gotta consider the fact that most of their big blockbusters like Horizon Zero Dawn and Days Gone and the Neo games have all been ported over to PC. With the exception of a handful of very exclusive titles like The Last of Us and the Persona games. Even then, Persona 4 is on PC now, actually, I think. But Persona 5, God of War, let me think, what else? There was one other one I had in mind. And its sequel, Spider-Man Miles Morales. Damn it, what the fuck was that other one I had in mind? Oh, the extra games, so on and so forth. My point is, PlayStation has quite a few good exclusives under its belt, but it's giving up a lot of the games that were PlayStation exclusive. Bloodborne! That's the one I was thinking of. Jesus Christ. Everything but the game I wanted to say was coming to mind. And Sony is allowing a lot of them to go over to PC. Granted, they're still keeping the exclusivity from Xbox so that people that aren't on PC that aren't on PC or PlayStation still can't get it because they don't want them to have that. Microsoft has tried to get Sony to let them have some of their stuff and even be like, hey, we'll let you have this stuff, and Sony goes, no, we don't want to. Sony is actually the one currently holding back the dimensions of crossplay across most games these days because they just simply don't want to communicate or work with anybody else. Sony has a real history of does not play well with others. That is no secret. Figure out what the hell they think they're fucking doing. Because they want to focus on large blockbusters. Okay, I get that. That makes sense. But then they're giving up a lot of their large blockbusters to Steam instead of hoarding them. Which also doesn't make sense in the long term, because giving them over to Steam, anybody who, wants to play them but doesn't have a PlayStation will have less incentive to buy a PlayStation. Have a good PC that can run these games, you're fucked anyway. And a good gaming PC is expensive. It will ultimately, no matter what you do, end up costing you more in the end, even if you're building one from scratch. Especially if you're building one from scratch, just due to the cost of, a monitor and a keyboard and whatnot. And buying pre-built ones, yeah, sure, absolutely, it's a little cheaper, but it's still ultimately more expensive in the long run. At the same time, giving up a large number of exclusive titles to the platform of Steam, and some of them even going to Epic Games, while still holding them from Xbox, while Xbox is doing what Xbox always does, or what Microsoft always does, I should say, and is focusing on the software, and it's acquiring multiple studios because they've come to realize that they don't need exclusivity, they just need a portfolio with variety and a lot of different developers working under them. Sony has actively been pushing their smaller developers into their larger ones. They've been more or less forming, and so they only have a handful of studios. They've been getting rid of and forming them into the big ones so that the big ones can still keep pumping out blockbusters day after day, year after year, month after month. Strategies here. One strategy is focusing on having a large variety of games and exclusives available, but ultimately not making them exclusive because no matter what, they still generate revenue from it. But the other, Granted, timed exclusivity is a thing. They will probably start doing that. I'm going to be honest with you, I fully expect it, while focusing on its Game Pass, a subscription-based service that allows you to access these games without having to buy them outright for a monthly fee. While we have the other that wants to focus entirely on holding the exclusivity and keeping their specific titles so that you have to have their system, but then they're actively giving up a lot of their exclusives. And I don't understand what the long-term plan is going to be here. Believe it or not, Big Daddy Magnum has sat here and thought about this for a good few hours over the last day, and I can't quite fucking figure out what the hell they're doing. On the one hand, I love the Microsoft business strategy that they got going right now. Pumping up fucking Game Pass, adding more games to it, trying to keep it in action, doing a damn good job. I mean, I was against Game Pass when it first came out, but now I'm all for it. I've come to actually enjoy having it, and I keep renewing it every year. Granted, I renew mine on a yearly basis, but you know. And then we have PlayStation, who, sure, they hoard their exclusivity for some games, but they keep giving them up for others, and ultimately they're just losing in the long run because what they're trying to do is convince people to buy their console. But they're making it so that their console ultimately has less value. And if you've been paying attention for any amount of time, you'd know that woke garbage is something that nobody actually really wants, and even the people who do are such a minority of people that ultimately catering to them is a bad idea. And yet, Sony is catering to them a lot. A fucking lot. So we have the active censorship of their Japanese exclusive titles, catering to the social justice advocates of the world, keeping exclusivity of some games, and actively giving it up for some of their best ones, but then they're focusing on blockbusters instead of having more games available, and I don't see it. I don't understand exactly what they think they're going to accomplish here. I can't fucking figure it out, and it's actually starting to piss me off, because one strategy is working and the other strategy is clearly not, and yet they're not adjusting it, they're not doing anything. So unless they have some kind of long-term plan in the works, I just can't see where it would end up working out in the end. But that's all I have to say about it. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Magnums Rants / Let's Talk Gaming. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of Microsoft and Sony's business strategies and which one you think is better. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.